Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. It's great to be with you. I am just wrapping up, getting started, and I'm going to be colouring in Lizzie Mary Cullen's The Magical City. I'm going to be using gouache paint and watercolour pencils, specifically Inktense. So I have already laid down like a background here, as you can see. So the background, I've been using gouache paint, and the idea is I'm going to use these like leaves that I got out of my houseplants. So these are, I don't know what the type of plant is, but it does really well on my kitchen windowsill. And these are the younger leaves because they're small enough to imprint. And then these are from like a mini rose bush. So I thought, we could separate them and we could do, a couple of imprints here and there. So what I'm wanting to do is kind of create like a bit of a jungle-ish sort of look in the background. And then you have the waterfall kind of crashing down. So we'll do the waterfall in Inktense with like some dark blues, some light blues. I'll make these into stars, and if I look closer down here, I've got like water bubbles, so I'll use a white Posca Pen or white gouache paint and just paint those back in. I've put washi tape around to create a border because I wanted to kind of frame it, and then over here I've also used gouache paint. Now, as you can see in the background, it's quite streaky. I'm still getting used to keeping the gouache paint a consistent level, and it's quite interesting when you color it or paint with it. If you paint over it like multiple times, what actually happens is it creates this streaky effect. So in some ways it's almost like you want to go kind of two or three times at the most and then get more paint, because the more you go back and forth, the streakier it gets. But I'm not a professional with gouache paint at all. I am literally learning as we go. So what I want to do is kind of create a lighter consistency than this blue. I had mixed Prussian blue and some greens and I didn't go green enough, so it's more blue, but it's quite pretty. I mean, we can layer up some like bluish greens and see what we get. So the idea is going to be kind of do a lighter but not very bright and paint some of them in, and then make a little bit lighter and kind of layer it up that way. So I'm just really having a play. I'm not sure how it's going to actually end up, but I kind of am going along the lines of if we don't experiment and play, we don't really know. So as you can see, there's like my really messy paint. So that's the blue I mixed. So I'm going to bring in a bit more of the green. And I don't really mind that I'm going to have like an unrealistic green. I mean, the picture has got its own sort of play and perspective and all of that. So it doesn't lend itself to being overly realistic, if you know what I mean. So let's have a play and let's see what we can do. I'm going to keep my palette and my leaves out, and if you hear any animal noises in the background, it's just my guinea pigs. I've got them out for a play, and they really do enjoy playing in our schoolroom so much more than in our lounge where the TV's going. So they are running around like mad little things. Okay, so I'm going to bring in some of this kind of green, and I'm going to mix it with a bit of like this Prussian blue. I'm not going to do too much. I wanted quite a bit more lighter than this, so I might actually bring in some yellow. I'll move it in so you can actually see. Hi Kenny, how are you? Hi Noel, how are you doing? Okay, so I really should be using a palette knife, but anyway, let's see if I can kind of like scrape some of this off on the edge. Alright, I'm going to dig in for a bit of yellow. So maybe some bright yellow here. Ooh, gosh, I hate doing that because I make my paints all really messy, but it's okay. So we'll mix this up, and apparently when you have dark gouache, when it dries lighter, but the light colors dry darker. So there we go. Okay, so I'm gonna I'm so like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? All right, I'm gonna paint this thing now. I think I painted this way. Okay, so painting leaves. Here we go. See, I'm gonna paint leaves. You can see it all on YouTube. Not only do we color in coloring books with pencils, we paint leaves. I've been desperate to do this. Okay. I'm gonna do this. Oh my gosh. Alright, I'm too scared to actually press it. So I'm gonna chicken out and I'm gonna paint the other leaf and then I'll press both. Maybe we can just do this. Maybe that's a better way. Alright, I'm going to get seriously like covered in paint. Oh no, that didn't work. Okay, don't pat it in. Paint it. My hands are going to get messy. So, yep, I'm going to get messy. I actually am not one for messy. And that's where I like being artistic. It pushes me out of my comfort zone. All right, so I'm going to do this one like up here. Okay. Press that and press that. Oh, good gracious. All right, that's fine, that's fine. We can use water and, okay, and then you lift, and then we'll paint it again and put some more down. All right, so this is gonna, if this goes really ugly, then we can just paint over it. Like, that's the worst that could actually happen, is we just paint over it. Okay, lift that up. So I hope you've all had a good weekend and a good week so far, or a good start to your week. The boys had a very busy weekend. Rugby season has started and they've had a scout hiking event they're preparing for. So it's really quite full on. I've got one of my youngest is turning 10 at the end of the weekend. So that's exciting. And yeah, we had a busy week last week. We went up into London and we went to Legoland with our homeschool group. So we got a good discount. And that was really, really a lot of fun. Okay, let's bring this one out. Oh, okay, hang on. Press it down. Okay. Maybe we need a lot more paint. And then what I'll do is I'll let it dry and then we can paint a lighter color. I hope you can see this okay. I promise as I go lighter, you'll see it a bit better. I've done this dark, but it will, I want to layer it up. So I've never done this before, so it's possible that I'm doing it a great injustice. But anyway, you know what, live and learn. I'd rather try it on a book that I'm not overly fussed with than on a page that I really like and it turns out it didn't work. I suppose you could do this probably better with acrylic paint. The principle kind of is the same. You're just basically imprinting and making a proverbial mess. The other option is you could just paint leaves, like with a paintbrush, and just paint the design. Yeah, you gotta try. I've been thinking about, you know, ways to do things on the channel to try and stand out a bit, so attract, you know, more people and just be something like a channel people find interesting. And this is also part of my experimentation, is like, what can I do to kind of stand out? But that's just like a social media tactic, really. It's sort of the things people, I suppose, don't really talk about when it comes to social media and growing channels or growing an audience, is just how, you know, their tactics and what they do to stand out. Plus, I've noticed, like, color alongs and all of that, people like them, but they don't seem to attract as many people as one would think. Whereas if I put things like the best coloring books for 2024 or that sort of thing, you get actually more engagement. So in some ways it's also a case of looking and saying, okay, I like to color, I like to do art, I'm enjoying having a channel, building a community, but what do people really want? And how do I keep up with kind of like what people are interested in? So it's a mix of that and doing what I like and that sort of thing. Okay, so now I'm using like the little roses and plopping it down here. I like the roses, the rose leaves, they're working really nicely. And the other thing I've been learning with gouache paints, so with watercolor, you go from light to dark, but with gouache paint, you actually go the opposite. You go dark to light. Which I find really fascinating. So then you could even take like string or thread and you can imprint that on there. Okay, so while that's there, I'm going to mix up some more paints. And I want it to go lighter, so the way I make it lighter is with the yellow. So I've tried to make this a bit lighter, and we'll see now. I promise I'm not going to be the whole evening on this. I will stop. Alright, note to self, don't leave it drying too long. It breaks the leaves. I might actually have to let this dry. Gosh, you'd think my guinea pigs were running a marathon or something. Or maybe they're doing Formula 1. Alright, so I don't know how successful this is, but anyway, I'm going to do a few more and then I'm going to let it dry, and I might come back to it later. But I'll basically do this whole process until I've got like obvious colored leaves, so maybe a bit lighter. Worst case scenario, it's a big mess and I have to redo it. Hi Dawn, how are you? I'm glad you are well. Did you have a good weekend? We have finally started seeing fall, signs of fall, so my garden is starting to get covered with yellow and brown leaves, which means in a month or so's time I'm going to have a whole lot of acorns and acorn leaves to rake up. We have an oak tree in the next door neighbor's yard that overhangs into our garden. So it's always a mess come November. This looks hard to do. It's messy. I didn't realize it was going to be this messy. You could probably use like those rollers, you know, when you do lino printing or mono printing on a jelly pad. They have those rollers. You could probably use something like that and put like a blank piece of paper and then roll over the leaf. You probably get a better imprint than what I'm doing. So my boys and I have been attempting to look at the art of Albert Dürer, and a lot of his work was printing either on woodwork and then filling it with ink, or on, I think, metal. And in my research to try and come up with a tactic for the boys, I saw this sort of style where you can have nature, like you paint a background and then you press leaves into it. So that's kind of where this is coming from. But before I suggest that other children have a go, I thought it's probably better I see how successful it is. But I was going to probably look at getting like a jelly pad with those roller things, because I thought for younger kids that might work a bit better for them. I will paint. Oh, sorry, I'm getting my head in the way. I will get the paint off. It's water-based, so it should wash off with, you know, soapy water. And I do have spare leaves, so I'm going to put this aside, let this dry, and then build up. Worst case scenario, it looks like an absolute mess, and I just cover it up. Hopefully that won't happen. So I'm going to just cover up my paints. All right. Okay, so let's get to doing some beautiful painting or coloring with our Inktense pencils, which are a little bit less messy than what I've been doing. And you can also see how the gouache dries. It should dry relatively quickly. Okay, so I want to work on the water, so I'm going to bring in some Malibu, which is 1213. I think I'm going to bring in some greens, so I'll bring in a Teal Green 1300, and I'll also bring in a kind of like darkish blue, maybe a mineral blue. So you can use a mineral blue. I have a turquoise, but it's the same number. So we'll see. Yeah, I think it's the same color actually. It's just named differently. Okay, so this is normally the part where I get stuck, but it's okay. It's okay. We'll just figure it out. So I'm thinking we'll do some dark at the top and then bring it down. So I'm going to use the turquoise. Kind of make that dark. In here, so I'm trying to just work out gently kind of where the darker bits will go, where the lighter bits will be. I always think of Peter Hewitt whenever I color this book, because she's kind of like the main person we all, you know, those of us who get started with Inktense kind of refer to. It's sort of Peter Hewitt and her beautiful tutorials. Alright, I'm going to zoom in a bit more so you can see more of what I'm doing and less of my hand and all of that. And I'm going to put down a piece of paper towel just to protect my hand and the page from getting too smudged. So do you color much in Lizzie Mary Cullen's books? Are they your style? Not really. You don't own any? Okay. I've seen her Christmas book is quite popular. I find the way she's drawn the perspective on her pictures can be quite challenging to get my head around. Okay, so I'm going to swap over to my teal green. And I'll use a white Posca pen to bring in like the whiteness for the waterfall. It is a nice picture. Thank you. I find this particular one, it looked really easy, well, ish, but because of the amount of open space, I wasn't sure really what to do with it because it felt like it needed a bit more in the background, and sometimes that's my biggest challenge with these particular pieces. Either it's so much going on in the page and the way it's drawn is quite overwhelming, or it's got a lot of empty space and that in itself becomes overwhelming. It definitely is a challenge on my brain to color in this book. But I like that I can use the Inktense pencils. I mean, I know you can use other pencils and you don't have to use Inktense. I guess I just use this book as a kind of like Inktense paper book so I can practice Inktense on. And it's nice to have, you know, different books where you can practice with different medium and try different things. let's come more into the twirly whirly bits here. I can always bring in a darker blue when we're done with this. Alright, so just trying to work out where to put what colors. It's so tricky to know how much color to put in where without kind of overdoing it and still keeping some areas lighter than others. Okay, I'm going to activate this now and see how it goes. So I've got some water and a paper towel. it's going to rain by you, Dawn. Is that a good thing? Do you need the rain? Do you get quite a wet autumn where you stay? I think we'll make a nice blackish sort of bridge, like an iron bridge. So I'm going to paint over these like circular things, which are just, I suppose, water bubbles, and I'll go over them with a Posca pen when I'm done. And even the parts where I've got paints, I'm just going to white over that paint with either white paint itself or white Posca pen. and hopefully that will kind of restore the paint and the effect that I'm going for. The nice thing with gouache paint is you can actually lift some of the paint off by just reactivating it. So it's probably not the end of the world. So I can easily just rub that away and it's gone. I'd like to just rub that away. You really don't need to use a lot of water on this paper. Thanks, Dawn. Keep well. I hope you have a really good week and really appreciate you stopping by. Okay, so that's some of the water, but what I'm going to do is shift gear a bit and get some browns and maybe a bit of red, so a madder brown, and then like a sepia ink, and hopefully create like a nice sort of color going on there. So I'm using a sepia ink here. Then I'll bring in a bit of madder brown. And then I'll just use an Indian ink for like just pushing back the color. I think I'm going to do the mountains, you know, grays, like brownish grays. Okay, let's try. Hi VA Creative Arts, how are you? Thanks for joining. Thank you for your kind words. I'm glad that you found the channel and you are enjoying the content. Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate you saying that. Oh, thank you. I'm glad that you will be coming back to look at some of the other videos. Let me know if there's anything specific you would like to see, and I will see what I can arrange for you. I'm not always the quickest at uploading videos, but I do try my best. This is one of those ones where you have a look and you paint and then you realize you missed a bit and then you have to find the right color. Never mind, we found it. So I'm just going to lift off some of the pigments and just try to paint it on. So I made the silly mistake of thinking that this was not rock and part of the background, hence why it's blue. So yeah. Oh, fabulous. I'm glad that you found loads on the channel to indulge and enjoy. And it is absolutely lovely to meet new people and grow community. It really is something very special. I couldn't agree with you more. Okay, so I said I was going to do Grey Mountains. So I'm going to bring this down a wee bit. And I want to kind of like, I think I'm going to go Payne's Grey with maybe a charcoal grey. It might work. No, I'm not going to do charcoal grey. I'm going to do Storm Dust. So I am using a mixture of the newer Inktense pencils with some of the older Inktense. Payne's Grey, there we go. And then I'll try and use like a white highlighter and highlight at a later stage. So I just want to lift off some of this gouache paint on here. It is the nice thing about gouache paint is it actually does lift off, so it's easy to tidy up. Hi Carly, how are you? Did you have a good weekend? Yeah, not too bad, thanks. Just been a bit busy lately, so I'm looking forward to things settling down. Had a really busy week last week, but all good stuff, you know. Sometimes it's a good busy. Okay, so we tidied that up a little bit. So I'm going to use Payne's Grey. Okay, so sometimes I need to work out where is what. This is the thing with these pictures, like here is a little pathway along here. So that needs to be a different color. So I need to use like a amber. So I'm going to use an amber to kind of create this pathway. Otherwise what happens is I get terribly lost and I'll end up coloring in things that actually don't need coloring. Just this. And then it looks like this mountain kind of goes down into maybe some greenery. So I'm going to try and bring in some green. Mamma mia! Okay, I need to keep my pencils out so I can make sure I refer to them. I hope you don't mind me mumbling out loud to myself and processing what I'm doing. I find it does actually help. I need a leaf green. So we'll bring this up, kind of like that, and I'll do it along this side. Try and weave it into the mountain somehow. You want another story? Oh my gosh. You must have really enjoyed that if you want more stories. Alright, so I'm going to mix in this grey. Alright, so I like doing Mad Libs. You know, I don't think I've ever done a Mad Lib. I kind of know what they are, but I'm not 100% sure that my understanding of them is really good. But as best as I can work out, a Mad Lib is when you kind of make something up as you go, so a story as you go or something like that. Yeah, it's a bit fuzzy. Although, so when I was driving the boys up to London on Monday, I took them to meet up with some friends in London at a kind of like water park. And in the car, my eldest son decides he'd heard on YouTube, I think, mixture of YouTube and the radio, this whole thing where each person says a single word and you listen to each other and you build up a story or a sentence based off the previous word. So this was really hilarious because, I mean, I've got 3 boys and my youngest is turning 10 and my oldest is 13 and a half. So the conversation in the car can go a little downhill very quickly. So it was hilarious to start playing. So we start off with a word and initially it's sort of going along the lines of just random words, and then eventually the younger two, especially my soon-to-be 10-year-old, realizes, okay, no, he actually needs to use a few verbs and a few other words like prepositions, and not always just adjectives or nouns. So then we kind of start. But every so often I would get stuck into giving my youngest son what my eldest called all the power, where he had the power to come up with the naughty-ish, boyish kind of words. So we went into many different genres, including war and superhero, and a bit of graphic kind of thing going on here, and then at one stage to turn into boyish humor. So, I mean, you can imagine how this car ride was going. But at the end of the day, what they kind of learned was listening to each other, listening carefully to the sentences, kind of trying to stay on theme, and create a good sort of story. But, you know, obviously them being a bunch of boys, at one stage we had a sci-fi theme with a Superman who was a supercar or something along those lines. And then I go and I say, there was a girl and she had big, powerful, and the next thing we know, boys being boys, one of them chimes up, you know, oh, she's got powerful boobs and all of that, and then they're canning themselves laughing. And we're sitting in this car and I'm thinking, oh, I am so glad that there is no one else in this car, because this is just really hilarious. And the next thing I know, we've got shooting scenes and there's limbs flying off, and you know, I'm just thinking, this is just typical boy humor. And at one stage I said to them, listen, you're kind of pushing mom's boundaries here with the fighting scene, so let's make a standard thing. No zombies, no gory stuff, and keep the violence down. Like, your imaginations are running wild and mommy's imagination can keep up. So let's keep this. And in the same process, I'm driving on the motorway or the highway, and I'm trying to stay focused amidst peals of laughter, because these kids' imaginations are just insane. But it was really, really great fun, and it was good for them to have the freedom to just be themselves and to just be at their ages and express themselves and explore storytelling in such a fun way. So it was really, really funny. I did say to my older boys that it could be, they shared the idea with their friends, it could be really interesting to hear what different boys could come up with and the sort of stories they would form. But yeah, there's a little fun insight into my everyday life as a mom of 3 boys. But yeah, if you ever want to stretch your imagination, try creating a story with family and friends using a theme and one word only. It can get pretty fun. So I'm kind of trying to work out if this little town is, where is it set? It just says it's a waterfall, because normally at the bottom of her pages she tells you where each image is from, but this one is just says waterfall, so I don't know. I would like to think that it's a waterfall in the Alps. I absolutely love the Alps. I think they're really, really spectacular. But I'm not sure if you get any waterfalls in the Alps. I'm sure you do. Alright, so I put a bit of amber down the pathway, so I'm going to use a bit of oak. So at the rate I'm going, it looks like I won't have enough coloring pages completed in September to really do a end of the month video, which is such a pity. I've only completed 2 coloring pages in the entire month. But I am trying to think of some other ideas, so I'm thinking I might do like my favorite artists for the year, like which have been my favorite books to color in. I could even add like my favorite coloring supplies for 2024. I'm also trying to think of other sort of videos just to make instead of having an end of the month video, just because I don't feel like sharing 2 coloring pages is really enough. So I'll just try and think of something to kind of fill that gap. Maybe do like a questions and answers kind of video. That's also an option. So those are just some of the things that I'm randomly thinking about as the end of September draws to a close. I still can't believe we're already at September. I mean, my goodness, the year's just flying by. You can see all these bubbly bits on the paper, and that I think is because I've got far too much water on my brush than what the paper really needs. My blue spot, let's see if I can lift some of this up. Right, so that is our mountains, but after it's dried, I might go in with a bit of black and just deepen up some of those shadowy areas. But now I've got the smoke, so I'm going to try and lift off some of the stray gouache, and I'm going to do the smoky bit. I might do the buildings similar color to the bridge and just help balance the colors a bit. I haven't used a Posca pen on the water yet, but I will. I want to bring in white highlights so that it really looks more like water. I do have a Posca pen nearby. So all these swirly bits here are smoke. So I'm just going to use a grey pencil for that. So if I take a white Posca pen, kind of come along here. So it would look something like this. Hi Christine, thank you. I'm glad you like the water. You can come along here, kind of do the mountain. Sort of like that, and then what we need to do is get the right grey. Here it is. And kind of fill this in here. You can dip like the tip of the pencil into water, and even that will give you like definition. So you don't always have to paint in. You can just dip your pencil in and then color. Kind of like that. Oh yes, as long as the Posca pens don't block, they are handy. I quite like that with a Posca pen you can dab it and or use a pencil before it dries, and it will blotch out. So I like that. Whereas some gel pens, if once they've dried, that's it. You can't scratch off and kind of fine tune what you're doing. Oh no, I'm so sorry to hear your wink of Stella blooped on your page. Oh, how did you fix it in the end? I hope it came right. I like to believe that most things can be fixed, but I do understand sometimes you can't fix everything. Oh, I'm so sorry it didn't work out for you. Yeah, that is true. Lots more pages to color. Still hard though when you worked hard on something and it doesn't work out. Just notice I missed this whole section here. Just fix this up. Good luck with the double page spread in Mine Rice Dirt Africa. That's going to be a fun page. So let's bring in a bit of amber, madder brown and some other browns, and let's see what we can do in these buildings and in some grays. Don't worry, Kali, you're all good. All right, so let's finish up here. So it's quite a quick page to color because it's really simple, especially if you use like Inktense pencils. He did go to the States. He was in Vegas around June, and apparently he's supposed to be going to, I think it's Nashville sometime next year, and all for work. So I am very happy for him and very jealous at the same time. I mean, I would love to go to Nashville. Kind of in the same way I'd love to go to Vienna, Austria. It's big for the music. But it's okay. At least he gets to go, and he's going for work, and yeah, it's a good experience for him. He went to New York, not last trip, but the trip before. I don't remember when it was, but he has been to New York, and yeah, I think he enjoyed that one too. Although he said New York reminded him of South Africa, I suppose because South Africa does tend to be quite inspired by America, and in a good way. I might go over these stars with a paint pen. No, he didn't pick me up any art supplies from Amazon US. To be honest, I don't actually really know what supplies to really pick up from Amazon US, because I don't really know what's a good price or what supplies are really good. But he did get me a New York shirt and a cap, and he got me a Las Vegas cap shirt, which I quite like. So he does try. Bless him. Yeah, it was New York City. He was there for a couple of days. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah, I had thought about getting the white gel pens. I suppose it's a little bit tricky when, you know, I don't know the address of the hotels beforehand. But yeah, it's worth me thinking about for his next trip and seeing if it's feasible. Oh dear, I have gone out of the frame. So sorry. Alright, I'm going back to the houses now. So I've done the stars, I've done a lot of the top, and the water I'm just going to do the same sort of principle. Same colors. Oh wow, yeah, no, the shipping is insane. It's actually in some ways not really worth it. As sad as it is to say, I don't think that shipping is really all that worth it from the UK. I mean, I give the shipping some thought when I'm buying books because, you know, at some point it's like, well, is it really worth the shipping? Am I prepared to pay for it to cost as much as it does? Or is it something I'm prepared to save up for and wait? Oh, absolutely. Amazon free shipping is really a lifesaver in so many ways. It's a real treat. All right, let's see how this building turns out. So I'm stuck on the arch. I'm like, what do I do? All right. I'll do this one, madder brown. I haven't decided if I like coloring buildings. I'm still not 100% sure how to best color them or even paint them. We'll just make it all gold. So very vibrant. I'm moving out again, so let's bring you in. Right, I think I'm going to finish the buildings and then we can call it a night. So we are almost done. I think for some of these smaller bits, I'm going to maybe use a gel pen and just get, you know, like the rims of the chimneys I'll do with gel pen, and some of these smaller, finer bits in here with a gel pen. I think it will just be a lot easier than trying to color them or even paint them. Ah, thank you. I'm not 100% sure I've done the background very well. I'll need to carry on playing with it, but I will do that off camera and see how it goes. Worst case scenario, it's a complete mess, and then I'll just do a block color. Because, I mean, yeah, worst case scenario, just paint over the background a really dark blue or dark green. And then I know for next time what not to do. Ah, thank you, Christine. I hope you enjoy the beginning. It's very messy, as you can tell by my hands. Very messy. Yeah, I covered in gouache paint. Fortunately, it does wash out, so. Well, technically, this bit up here is actually washi tape, so I can't take credit for the sky. It's washi tape, but I do like the color here. That's gouache paint, so I think I got that pretty okay. But what I had to do is take white gouache paint over it just to lighten it up. Yeah, one day I will be able to paint really good clouds like this. In my dreams, I become a fabulous artist that can do all these things seamlessly, but in reality, I'm really messy. But you know what, it's okay. We just keep it real. Ah, thank you, Kali. Oh, Noelle, you're very kind. Thank you. Now I do have some gel pens nearby, so let's see. I use a gold one, and I can just make the chimney sparkly. Why not? Who says we can't have sparkling chimneys? Right, so let's bring in some kind of like, I don't know, I want to do a little bit of like mosaic stuff in there, so maybe like green. And then I will use a brush. The smaller the details, the more I concentrate. It's like, ah. Oh, yum, you're having ribs for dinner. That sounds delicious. I have this tendency to leave my white Posca pen open, and then the tip dries and it takes forever to get it to reactivate, and all my other white Posca pens have gone and misplaced. Oh yum, ribs with corn on the cob. My goodness, that sounds really yum. What sort of marinade do you use for your ribs? garlic powder, onion powder, salt, paprika, and pepper. Oh wow, that sounds delicious. We love paprika. I had to help my one son marinate some chicken with, he followed a recipe off Instagram, and the chicken marinade was olive oil, garlic, some salt, pepper, cayenne pepper, I think paprika, tomato paste in a marinade, and then we let it marinate for a couple of hours. It actually came out pretty okay, I must say. Oh, cool. So you use TikTok. Oh, I remember Food Network. Some really great cooking shows on the Food Network. We're busy watching Australia MasterChef. Hubby and I used to watch the whole season. I think up until COVID hit, we were able to watch all the seasons, but we're busy slowly rewatching it with the kids. It's just such a lot of fun. Okay, so that's sort of kind of how I want to do the water, and I'll use the same colors and the same idea for the rest of the water. And then I'm going to play around more with the background and see how it goes. It might end up just not working at all, in which case I'll just blot it all out and see how it goes. So I will zoom out so you can see. Alright, so that's kind of how it's looking. Not sure if I'm getting the jungly vibe going on, but I might swap out and just use the rose petals, the rose leaves, which seem to work a little bit better. But yeah, so this part looks great. I'm not sure about my background, but you know, live and learn and trial and error. And yeah, so thanks for hanging out. It's been lovely to hang out with you, experiment, try different things, and also get back into Inktense pencils and in this book. I really do enjoy this book when I can get my head around the swirly bits and the designs. But I look forward to hanging out with you again next week, Monday, same time, 8 p.m. London, and hopefully we can experiment with a different coloring book. If you have any preferences, please do let me know and I will see what I can do. If you would want to see more pencil work instead of mixed media, I can also do that. Really don't mind. But yeah, I will see you all next week. Thanks everyone and have a great week ahead. Until next time, bye for now.